Today's job is changing our trunk release mechanism, and the original cable has like 2 strands left holding it together. You can see it's pretty much blown out here. This is what it looks like. Unfortunately, these cables which use the electric release, you have to buy the entire motor. You can't just buy a cable. On the manual release cars, on the early cars, it's a long cable that runs all the way up to the driver's side. So today we're going to go ahead and pull this out and get it changed. Alright, to start I'm just going to pull this little clip off and release. This is the emergency release, and this will stick out underneath the car. This is so if this cable had broken we could have got to the trunk, otherwise there's no other way to get in. Then I'm just going to slide that off, and probably need a little pry bar just to pop that out of the plastic holder. Okay, pop that free. Now we're going to pull this metal shield off so we can get in and access our trunk motor. So I just grabbed our new trunk motor. This is a dealer only part, and it comes with these pieces of foam attached to it. So we'll see what it looks like in just a minute. So now I've got all the bolts out. I need to get the spoiler off the back of the car so I can get these actuator motors, there's one on either side, out of the way, and there's 2 fasteners that hold them to the body. So what I'm going to do to bring the spoiler up, I'm going to use the rocker panel switch. It's in on the left hand side fuse panel down in the driver's footwell. So this is your switch right here. This is a service switch, and what you're going to do is you're just going to push that button, and that rear tail is going to come all the way up. The ignition does have to be on, and obviously the battery connected. So to get this rear tail off, we've got these plastic rivets along here, and in the center there's a center post. So you want to take an awl and push that center post all the way in. That's going to loosen up that plastic rivet, and we'll get that little plug when we get it all apart. Of course, the last one is really tight. So I'm going to very carefully see if I can't pop these off. Okay, so that's the expansion rivet. And actually the little plug is just pushed down there, so it's not a big deal. The last one, the piece broke. I'm going to get a punch and get that one. Come on. Okay, so that is really hard to get off. So next we got to undo that Allen screw down there and another one down there. Okay, so now all I got to do is I'm going to wind these motor shafts back down, and then I'm going to undo these 2 screws. I've already got the rest of my brackets out, so with that out and these motors down, I should be able to get this whole assembly out. Okay. We're hung up on something. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to lay that over to the side, and right here we can see our trunk motor. Unplug our trunk motor. Porsche really went all out with the mounting system in that one, didn't they? couple of pieces of foam sandwiched in there.
At least they gave you some more foam.
But yeah, it was only a matter of time till this one was going to break. Okay, so I've got our new trunk motor with our high-tech mounting system. And I guess in later models, Porsche did actually mount the trunk motor to that rear panel. So I'm just going to plug that in. And then I've peeled off the extra stickiness. I'm just going to squeeze that together. Squeeze that together. And literally, this motor is just going to sit in here. We can go and reconnect it. Okay. And then that trunk motor sits up in there. So before I put everything back in for the spoiler, if you take a look down in here, there's a lot of debris from leaves and whatever else. So I'm going to get my vacuum and see if I can't get some of this stuff out, make it a little bit better. Alright, so one of the good reasons why we want to do that, if you take a look down here, these are the body drains right here. And this is for moisture, because this is a wet environment. If these aren't clear, then you run the risk of moisture building up and eventually getting past the undercoating system. So I always try and at least clean it out a little bit. Didn't spend a whole bunch of time in there. I mean, it's still dirty looking, but at least all the debris is out so the drains can work. So in the reverse, putting the thing back together is just going to be the reverse of taking it apart. Same routine. We're going to tilt that motor under and bring it in. Now there's a couple of drains, these little rubber boots right here. If you get in here, you can see them. We want to make sure that these little drain boots are connected up to these posts, because water can come down and you can fill up the trunk if they're not connected properly. So that one is on.
As it goes in.
Yeah, just trying to twist it so it's not so messed up. Okay, and that's just all slid back up in there. Our trunk motor's still on. Yep, and we're just going to start putting it all back together right now. Alright, so we're going to hook in our safety cable and put our little clip back on. So if your Allen bolts drop down inside, if you take the little plastic end cap off, you just got to squeeze these two pieces at the same time. We can tip out that. You also want to get the plastic rivets if they broke like ours did when we pushed them in. Then you want to make sure you get that out so there's no rattles on the car. Okay, let's put our cap back on. So there's a little range of adjustment to this. Okay, so I've got it in and I've left it loose, so I have a little bit of movement back and forth. And what I'm going to do first is bring it all the way down and then centralize it in the cavity before I tighten those screws. Last thing I want to do before I close everything up is test our trunk latch operation. So I'm just going to latch that down and then walk over to the car and press the button. Looks like it works. Now that I have everything down, and I did actually put a little bit of lube on those pistons that lift this up and down. It was chattering as it went down, so if that's something that you hear when you're driving around 50 miles an hour, you get a weird chattering noise, you can't find it, take a look at your rear tail. As you lift that up and down, if it chatters, it can get sticky. But I've centered it in the hole, so I'm equally distant on each side, and then just taken my 5mm Allen wrench and locked both of those bolts down. And the last thing I got to do is reinstall my trim piece, my metal plate. I'm going to order up some new rivets before I do that, just because all three of those rivets are pretty well toast. Alright, that was way easier prying that piece on. You just got to kind of work it in. It did hang up in the middle a little bit on me here. I'm just going to wipe my paw prints off here, hit it with a little bit of Lanox just to shine up that anodizing, and then we're just going to wait for our new rivets to come in and install those.